Welcome to another episode of the I'm F.I.N.E podcast, where a couple of knuckle dragon veterans unpack the world of mental health as unprofessionally and informally as possible. I am Eric Peterson.
And I'm Brad Stosiek.
And today we are talking about veteran benefits. We're going to explain what the Veterans Assistance Commissions are and are not, the type of benefits a veteran spouse, or dependent may be able to receive from one, and the issues veterans have getting their benefits with our friend, Assistant Superintendent of the Veterans Assistance Commission in Kankakee County, Karen Smietanski. So sit back and relax as we do our best to help you go from being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional to truly being fine, navigating the benefits battlefield.
Welcome to the I'm F.I.N.E podcast with your freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional hosts, Eric Peterson and Brad Stosiek.
So it's been 4 months, I think we said. 4 months since we recorded our last episode. We had to take a little break.
We did.
We're finally back in the studio again. Feels pretty good.
It feels great.
I've missed it a lot.
Yes.
Doing this stuff is really good for me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's good for my own mental health. Like, I learn a lot, and it makes me feel a lot better to be able to come down here and do this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's kind of work, but it's also not.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So I miss doing it. It sucks that we had to take a break, unfortunately. I've just been slammed with work, which both of you know. And it was just the podcast was kind of on the back burner for a little while. But we are batch recording now.
Yes.
We've recorded more episodes this time. So we're not giving Jake, our producer, the episode on like a Friday with hopes that he can get it done by Monday. Now we're getting him like a little bit more time. Yeah. So we've built a backlog. We should be pretty good. We already got the next couple episodes lined up and recorded. So I'm just happy to be able to be doing this again. And in that time also, you have some updates because there's a possibility
yes,
you might not be blind anymore.
Well, no, that's not true.
Okay.
That's
Explain.
But I do have possibility to have my vision increase between 65 and 75%. So what that might look like,
what it might smell like.
What it might smell like. No. So it might be more peripheral vision back maybe, or I might get more depth perception or possibly less light sensitivity. And I know you're probably wondering, well, how is that possible, Brad? Mm-hmm. Funny, you should ask, Eric. There is a treatment called visual restoration therapy. And basically what that is they hook you up to a machine and it's low-grade electric shocks that basically kind of kick the nerves that are still alive back to life a little bit.
That's wild.
Kind of give them some little more juice.
And where are you going to go to do that? You're going to go down the street to do that?
Nope.
Where are you going to go?
Germany.
Yeah, that's the closest place you can fucking go.
That is the closest place I could go. So I will be spending 2 weeks in Berlin, Germany.
I'm happy for you, man.
Thanks,
I really hope it works out because for anybody that doesn't know, you are 100% blind in one eye, correct? Close?
95. Yeah, for the most part.
And then the other eye's a little bit better?
Yeah, so I see things, if that makes sense.
You see that there is something potentially there, the outline of it, but it's all kind of blurry.
It's just there's something there. And I still have light perception, which is in my bad eye, I guess, which is pretty cool.
But there's a pretty good potential that this could significantly improve what you're able to see.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
That's awesome.
I hope so.
And you're going to do that how in a few months? You're going to do that in the spring?
April.
And that's for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Thank you. And worst case, dude, it doesn't work. I get 2 weeks in Berlin, freaking Germany with my wife.
Yeah, there are worse things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like you have to go to Gary, Indiana or something for it.
Yeah.
I mean, then you're stuck there.
Like the Bears.
You could just come home. Maybe the Gary Bears.
The Gary Bears.
So anyway, when we thought about doing this episode about veteran benefits, we were thinking about doing it for a while. But, I was kind of apprehensive about it. And as time went on, I realized that getting the benefits that are owed to you if you are a veteran, spouse, or dependent, that underscores a lot of the episodes that we've done. It underscores a lot of the work that we've done with other veterans. And in my opinion, you can't talk about veteran benefits unless you talk about a Veterans Assistance Commission. And as some may know, our listeners may know, I'm also lucky enough to get to work as a superintendent for the Veterans Assistance Commission in Kankakee County. And the reason why I've gotten my benefits, the reason why I work for the VAC, The reason a huge part of why FAT's so successful is Karen Smietanski. And so I'm really thankful, Karen, that you were able to come on today. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. That was a very sweet introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into a little bit more with Karen and talk to her about why she got into it. But before we do, Bradley, what are the sources for this episode?
The sources for today's episode are DAV28.org, VACLC.gov, which is the Veterans Assistance Commission of Lake County, and then ILGA.gov, which is the Illinois General Assembly.
Very good. So why this episode matters. It's important to understand that benefits are not handouts. It's also important to understand that benefits do not mean that the person seeking those benefits is weak. Benefits are earned support. You know, there is a significant mental health impact for not using the resources that are available to you, like financial instability, healthcare issues, mental and physical health. So it's really important that we do an episode that kind of covers these things and provides a foundation and framework for people that might need some help. And thankfully, again, our friend Karen, in my opinion, is a subject matter expert in these things. So without further ado, Karen, would you mind explaining a little bit how you got into your line of work as a veteran service officer?
Sure. So, funny story is I applied for the job 3 times before they offered me the position.
Yeah.
They didn't hire me the first time because they found somebody that had some social work background and they thought that would be better. So, second time, because that person quit within 2 weeks, I believe it was.
Did they have veteran experience or just social work experience?
Social work experience,
Yeah.
but the person that was running the place at the time wasn't hot to work for, I guess I'd say,
Sure.
without being mean.
Sure.
And then the second person they hired lasted about 3 months, and they went on to find a better job, whatever. Couldn't stand it there either. Anyway, third time they called me. I said, why would I do this after a third time? They're like, because you're going to get the job if you just come. I'm like, okay.
All right. Deal. Sold.
But I got it because a friend of mine, Sharon Smith, worked for the county in the finance department. And I was looking for a job. I was a single mom, 2 kids, and my child support was next to nothing, and I needed a job.
Right.
It came with benefits. It was a great job. And I thought, how wonderful. And I was a secretary. I think I made $9.25 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And 16 years later, I am your assistant, and there is no better job in the world than helping veterans.
I appreciate that, but you're the assistant superintendent. But again, ever since coming into my position, I go to you about so much because you have been doing this work. I think you might have touched on this. How long have you been doing this type of work?
Just over 16 years.
It's over 16 years. So you are like I said, you're a subject matter expert. You also are the director of education for the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, right? Which means you also help teach every veteran service officer.
Every person that comes into this job across the United States, I get to have my hand on their future, which is very rewarding also.
So doing that, where does your passion for the veteran community come from?
Mainly my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was in World War II. He was a U.S. Navy veteran. He never talked about it very much, but his flag resides in my office, and I feel like I honor him every day.
That's his flag.
That is his flag.
That's on the bookshelf next
Yes.
to your office. That's
Yep.
very cool. Like we were talking when you first came down here and before you leave, like in my office in the podcast studio, I got all my grandpa's World War II stuff up, and I've had it up for a while because I always cared about that stuff more than like my own stuff. Up until recently, I had some of my medals, but I didn't have all of them, and I didn't care. But it's like getting to grow up around those people. And I don't know how your dad was. You said he didn't really talk about it very much.
He didn't. My older brothers, I'm the baby of 5, so my older brothers had a couple little stories about it, but I never knew any of them.
Yeah. I mean, that generation, my grandfather, he was the same. I really didn't hear much about it. And that's what kind of pained me the most after he passed. He passed when I was fairly young. I was like 15, 16. I hadn't gotten into the military yet. Had I have, though, oh my God, like the questions I would have asked, you know what I mean? And that's why I feel like if you have an opportunity to volunteer at like a veterans home or something like that, it is so huge to get to talk to some of these veterans, understand their stories, what they went through, because a lot of them, they haven't opened up, you know what I mean? They haven't told these stories. So I think it's hard, but it's I feel like anybody that's working in this space doing that type of work has some sort of passion that comes from a place like that. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? So that's very cool. So and like we talked about right before we started recording, even though we both worked there, I wanted to ask you these questions again because of the respect that I have for you, and I just wanted to hear it from your words. So can you explain what a Veterans Assistance Commission does?
Sure. So in the state of Illinois, we're called the Veterans Assistance Commission. They're not called the same thing across the United States, right? So you're going to look for what that is. But a veterans office, a veterans assistance office of any kind is going to help you do your disability claims, get you into healthcare, give you referrals for homelessness. If you have problems with food insecurities, we're going to be the one-stop shop to help you with everything, not healthcare. And that's really where we come from. The financial assistance, emergency assistance, we're there to try to fill all those gaps.
And obviously the Veterans Assistance Commission serves veterans, but who else does a VAC serve?
Sure, their widows and their children, of course. I mean, any of their family members that would be considered dependents.
Yep, very good.
Does the sorry for
no.
Does the type of discharge that a veteran has, does that matter for the type of services that they could potentially receive, or not so much?
When you're talking local, like our county level policies that we have within office, it does. Federal benefits, they of course have their own regulations, but and they vary, and we all have to learn the difference and help as many as we can and find the ways to help them even if they don't qualify for some of the things they should.
Gotcha.
And that's where I think Veterans Assistance Commissions that partner with community organizations like ours does, that really comes in clutch for a lot of those weird situations and circumstances. I've quoted this one before, and even though we didn't drop the source on this, the 2024 Veterans Suicide Prevention Study by the VA talks about how there's 17 veterans that kill themselves every day. Out of that, it's like 17.4.5, which I always think is ridiculous because it's like, who's the 0.4? Like, how do you have a 0.4 of a person? Like, but out of that 17, 10 of them are not connected to veteran benefits. And you got to ask why, right? Some of them because they don't know, it's a pride thing or whatever, but it's also because they might have OTHs, other honorable discharges or something, and they might not qualify for stuff. But things that I've seen in the VAC while I worked there and before I worked there is that even if a veteran doesn't qualify for services, you can go in there and see, because maybe maybe there's a possibility that we can work with people to see if that discharge could be overturned, depending on the circumstances. Like, we've worked with veterans that had a combat deployment and got back, and then something happened and they knocked out an E5. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? And then they get an OTH or something for it. It's like, all right, I understand that they violated something and they got an other and honorable discharge, but if we were to take a look at this from 30,000 feet, it's like, okay, don't we sort of think they should probably still qualify for some, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just like super frustrating.
I agree.
But yeah, it's a good question. Very good question. So I wanted to touch on the history a little bit. So we looked up some stuff about the history of Veterans Assistance Commissions. And Karen, if any of this is wrong, please feel free to step in and let me know, because you probably know. So the idea of what became the Veterans Assistance Commission dates back to the late 1800s, when state legislature sought to provide aid to indigent Civil War veterans and their families. And I didn't know what indigent meant.
Neither did I.
And then we looked it up. And what does indigent mean again?
Poor.
Okay.
Exactly. That's why we're still around, to help the poor.
It means poor. So it was this idea was to help poor Civil War veterans and their families, and this evolved over decades into the modern system of county level VACs. The Veterans Assistance Commission of Lake County, Illinois, traces its establishment back to 1926, is noted publicly as having been operating since that as well, which means that the Lake County VAC is among the oldest, if not the first, such commission in Illinois. Historical context: the Veterans Assistance Act in Illinois originally stemmed from statutes designed to support indigent veterans after the Civil War, sometimes referred to historically as the Bogardus Act of 1874 or the Indigent War Veterans Act, approved in 1907. VACs as organized bodies for veteran relief existed in various forms by the mid-1890s. Today's formal county-level Veterans Assistance Commissions operate under 330 ILCS 45, the Military Veterans Assistance Act, which provides statutory foundations for how commissions are composed and function across Illinois. Well, that sound pretty good?
Yep. Right on spot.
Look at us.
Are these, you said these are national But this is a lot of Illinois history, right?
That's Illinois history. So every state has their own. Like I'll use California as my first example. California is really ran under the California State Veterans, not commission, but they're the state offices, right?
Gotcha.
They don't really have county, but their county ones are all paid for their state, through their state.
Okay.
Where we're paid by our county. Ohio is very similar. So it just depends on funding, but everybody's funded differently throughout the country.
And do you have to be a resident in that state in order to receive any type of services from a VSO?
In the county.
In the county?
Yeah. So,
okay.
So if you were an indigent veteran and you were coming to us, you would have to be in Kankakee County in order to receive financial or emergency assistance.
Okay.
But if you just want benefits assistance like disability claim work, we can help anybody anywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's tough because I'm not trying to skip ahead. A lot of people say if you've been to one VA, you've been to one VA. I would say it's a similar thing when it comes to VACs. And again, I don't have the experience that you do, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like sometimes, okay, half a dozen deployments for me, right? So I got guys all over the country, and I got guys that'll reach out to me randomly like, man, I'm struggling with getting services for this, that, or the other. And I'll always tell them, go to your local VAC, or they don't always call it a VAC. So I reach out to Karen. I'm like, hey, what do they call it in this area? Or like, who can I send this person to? And if they've had a bad experience with veteran service officers, I've sent guys that I've deployed with to Karen. And that was before I worked at the VAC, because I went to her, I trusted her, and she's been able to provide those services when it comes to the healthcare or benefit side, which I think is important because not every county has a Veterans Assistance Commission. So I didn't put this in there, but how do people, like, what is it that qualifies an area to have their own Veterans Assistance Commission?
So in the state of Illinois, it's governed by what you talked about, the Military Veterans Assistance Act.
Right.
And you just have to have 2 or more veteran service organizations, so like DAV, Marine Corps League, American Legion, VFWs, come together, go to the county and say, hey, we want to form this. And then they have to figure out how to fund them, and then they just put it together. So the veteran service organizations of the area govern us in the state of Illinois. There is legislation out there in the state of Illinois in this more rural counties of southern Illinois where they're putting together a jurisdictional VAC program where so we're in the 21st jurisdiction. So if Iroquois County didn't have a VAC and we wanted to run that too, Eric could go down there and say, okay, let's find your service organizations, and he could be the superintendent over both, and they could be a VSO down in the office, or we could, get one down there or whatever. But you could have a jurisdictional one then at that point. So they're hoping that works in the southern counties because south of Lake Springfield, there's deserts.
Right. Once you get into the rural communities, and you were born and raised, where'd you come from?
A little town called Raymond, Illinois.
And where's that at?
It's about 35 miles south of Springfield, 60 miles north of St. Louis.
Okay, so rural. Just rural America, rural Illinois. So
I'm a farm girl.
Hey, but in veterans in those areas, categorically harder for them to get access to benefits. They typically have more issues. And again, this is another thing that I didn't put in the sources. I just remember from teaching talk saves for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, like rural veterans are within one of the demographics that have a hard time getting the care that they need for a lot of reasons. And so your dad being in a rural area, you know what I mean? Like that had to have posed a lot of additional issues too. And it's like the cool thing about being a part of the VACs now for me is getting to see what happens on the state level, getting to see how all of these areas that didn't initially have VACs now that are starting to come together with other counties, like, hey, how do we create, like you said, a jurisdictional Veterans Assistance Commission, so we can provide services to veterans in our rural counties because they need services too. I think a lot of veterans are move from cities into. I can see a lot of veterans moving from bigger cities into rural areas.
Oh yeah,
just because like I love living in a rural area. I have my issues with the state of Illinois like anybody else does, but I like living in a more rural area. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to continue. So having access to services for vets like that in rural areas is huge.
I think that comes with getting older too.
Yeah.
Not just like a veteran thing. Cause I used to want to be like, oh, I want to move to Chicago and live in the city. And,
Same.
And
now I'm
I
like,
just
nope.
I told the man the other day, I was like, man, like 2 acres and like woods
Rocking
in the
chair,
backyard. I was
like
that
a
sounds
rocking chair on a
pretty nice.
patio. I just want to sit there and yell at kids for playing on my lawn.
I'll yell at squirrels because
They're all the same. They all sound the same.
Exactly.
Anyway, you know what I mean? What do you think? What did it take you, Brad,
Yes.
to apply for your benefits? Because, and I ask that because to clarify the work in the Veterans Assistance Commission world, veteran benefits are confusing. There are veterans out there that do their own claims, and hey, if you can do it and you have no issues, great. But it's confusing for me. It was super confusing. So I didn't apply for the longest time. I assumed I didn't qualify for a lot of stuff. What was it like for you?
For me, I just remember when I was getting out, they're like, "Hey, just make sure you write down everything that hurts, and then put it on this paper." And I was like,
you got that?
Yeah.
I don't even remember getting that.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, all right. Okay. So I got all this and like I turned it in. They're like, all right, great. We'll reach out to you. And then like after I got out, I think I got a letter. And it's like, you are 60% disabled based on what you filled out. And I was like, okay.
So they tried to take care of you though while you were getting out. It seems like
they tried.
Okay, well there's some support. Because for me, when I was getting out, all I was thinking about was the other side of the fence.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I'm just getting out. These guys are, I was usually either told that like, hey, don't, like if you reach out for help, you're weak. Like you don't need any help. You know what I mean? Like there was all of these thoughts put into my head about what I needed to do to get the help that I needed. Like that was that deterred me from really getting that help.
Do you think it was because I was active duty that maybe they had like a little bit more support? Because not only
oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'm comparing it to the demob process. Like when I demobbed, when I got back from Afghanistan, I remember going in front of the doctors and talking to the doctors, and then I remember like what the squad leaders were telling everybody, like talking shit. If you were going to tell them that you were dealing with issues from this or that or whatever. So like we're all demobbing, and we're just like I remember standing in front of this one office and in a long line, and you'd go in there and sit down, and then the doctor was just like, how many do you drink alcohol? Yes. How many drinks do you have? And like if it was more than like 2 in one sitting, they were like, you're an alcoholic. And then they were like, do you have issues with this, that, or the other? And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking like, the more I tell you, the longer I'm going to have to stay here. And I'm not going to get to go see my family. So I'm just going to be, everything's great. I'm totally fine. And then they're like, here's all these handouts on applying for benefits. And I'm like, great. Bottom of the rucksack, in the bottom of a tough box, never to be seen again. Like and then years went by, and it took like a lot of self-reflection and conversations with my wife, who was like, dude, you're having issues here. You're having issues going grocery shopping. You're having issues with it. We need to like do something about this. And there was a guy named Kurt who was a veteran service officer at the Illinois Veterans Home. And he was the first guy I talked to. And I just gave him my medical packet. And I told him what my problems were. And he called me an idiot. I'll never forget. Because he was like, why didn't you apply for anything before? Because like I said, my military history, I wasn't in heavy combat. I wasn't any of that crazy house-to-house stuff. Hit an IED, got mortared, small firefights. But like in the grand scheme of things, and a lot of the vets that we've worked with and things that they've dealt with, I'm very lucky that was my limited experience. And I have documentation of all of that. And so I just gave that to Kurt, and Kurt was like, yeah, you're going to qualify for some stuff. Why didn't you file for anything? Because I was seeing doctors through my own insurance and paying for everything out of pocket that I should have been going to the VA for, that I was dealing with my headaches and my sleep issues and my PTSD. And so it took a good conversation with a VSO to kind of like, you need to apply for this shit. So that's what kind of helped me finally put in my first application for
I think
disability.
I'm not like
claim.
Taking a shot at your age. Obviously, we're not like that far apart in age, but I think you guys were that generation that were told to like suck it up and don't say anything, and you learned that was the wrong way. So when I was getting out, everyone's like, dude, you have a scratch on your finger, claim it. You have a scratch on your butt cheek, claim it. Like,
well, I tell any of my friends that are still in, I'm like, dude, before you get out, you better get all this stuff documented. You know what I mean? Because we need to start working on this stuff, because I think it's hard.
Do you know they call it the I Love Me books now, right? Like National Guard people taught me this. That they're all taught to keep I Love Me books. so that everything's documented and kept up to date, and they have it when they get out and they hand it to a VSO, and that's all they have to do.
God, that's genius.
It totally makes sense. You could just keep track of it because you're not thinking. If you join the military for the reasons that I would hope that you would, you want to be part of something bigger, you want to be a part of a bigger cause, you want to give yourself to the because you believed in the preserving the freedom of your country, whatever the case may be. If that's why you join, you're not thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about, oh, this is what I need to do for myself. You're just like, okay, when I'm done here, I'm off to the next thing. I'm going to start a family, focus on career. I don't need anything. And it's like, that's where you have to shift your mindset because I tell every veteran, I'm not telling you to go in there and lie. I'm telling you to go in there and tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you to go in there and say exactly what's going on with you, all of your issues. And then if it ties to service, because they got between veteran service officers and the VA, they got plenty of smart people that can figure out if it came from service or not. And if so, then you're going to get a disability claim or whatever you're going to qualify for because that's what you're dealing with. Like you have to be honest about that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think they need to do a better job of telling, like, reassuring service members when they get out, like, it's okay, you do deserve it, like you are entitled to those benefits. Because I know a lot of guys who are like, no, I don't deserve that, I give it to somebody who needs it. They're like, that was my mindset for the longest.
Well, okay, so case in point, myself, like I said, we ran over an IED. I was in an MRAP. The IED was buried just deep enough, and it was right in the center of the road. So like, because of all of these variables, thankfully, when that IED blew, the truck went up in the air. It felt like it went up like 10 feet in the air. Realistically, I'm sure that the tires barely came up off the ground because an MRAP's like 38,000 pounds. But still, like that happened, smoke, loud, high-pitched noises. But I got my bell rung. I have a buddy of mine. His last name was Steele. He was in a Humvee, hit an IED. He was in the turret. Turret came down, took his legs off. So now I'm like, you're telling me that him and I, we're going to go in and get benefits together? Like, no, man, I can't. I'm not going to. Like, he deserves all the benefits. I see myself as being in a better condition, for lack of a better word. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, he deserves those benefits. I got my bell rung. I don't need those benefits. And then again, years down the road, I start dealing with my own issues. And now I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, I need to reevaluate that conversation. And had I have done that before, how much would have changed for me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll never know. Like, I should have done it a lot earlier. And that's why I try to tell so many veterans, document everything and just go and just tell them what's going on with you. Just be honest. You know what I mean? But to clarify, and this was something, and Karen just touched on a little bit ago, but what a Veterans Assistance Commission is not. The VAC is not federal. It is not the VA, which is unfortunate, as they both have the same two letters, and a lot of you fucking Marines can't figure that out. And
I mean,
it's like VAC, VA, same thing.
If you want to know a secret, I just learned that it's not the same thing.
Oh, Lord, Brad.
I was genuinely going to ask him, like, you guys don't work with the VA for real?
It's different. It's different. Different in a lot of ways, but both work with veterans, right? But a lot of people, a lot of veterans confuse the VA with being the VAC. Now, Karen, can you speak to the relationship between Veterans Assistance Commissions and the VA? Because working as a VSO, you do have access to VA records and files as long as that veteran gives you permission to, right? So there's still a lot of communication between VACs and VAs, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think most people don't realize is the VA is a big organization that don't even talk to each other.
Oh,
so
sure.
Explaining that first, like the VA benefits world doesn't talk to the VA healthcare side of the world, and they don't talk to the National Cemetery Administration either. So in order for a veteran to get started, they come to us and we try to figure out what they're coming to us for, because when they walk in, they don't necessarily know either.
Right.
So I think that's a good starting place for most veterans when they come in, is like, okay, we are the VA, but we're the VA county. So we help you on a county level. We're going to do your benefits.
Yeah. And again, advocating for you, speaking to the VA on your behalf, helping ask some of those questions that you're not sure how to ask, get the information that you need to get. We're there to help you with that process, but we're not the VA.
Yep. So once you are an accredited veteran service officer, you get access to what's called VBMS. It's the Veterans Benefit side of the VA benefits world, and you get to see everything that they've ever done with the VA in benefits world, but not their healthcare. You have to get a special access to see their healthcare records. And as of today, we don't typically have that in the county level. The state level has that. So it's one of those things that the county VSOs are working on getting on a regular basis. So having that access is necessary for us to be able to continue our jobs.
Yep. Were you gonna?
I was just curious. Do a lot of veterans not seek your services because they think it's associated with the VA? Like, do you think that's a common thing? Like, I guess obviously you've never talked to veterans who haven't talked to you, but
I think the biggest thing is they don't know we exist.
Right.
I think that's a big problem. Like, you can advertise, you can talk about it, you can be on the radio, you can put pamphlets and legions and VFW halls and all that, and I think they still don't really understand what we're there for.
Right. And it's free. It's free. You can go see a Veterans Assistance Commission and get services to see what you qualify for free. You can have a veteran service officer essentially be your advocate to help you with the entire claims process for free. Like, every veteran has that right. You know what I mean? So it's huge, and it's crazy that not enough veterans know about it. And we have veterans that tell us all the time, we didn't know you existed. We didn't know you were here. And I think a part of that is probably because VAC, they just lump it all into one. Yeah. But yeah, definitely huge differences there. Karen, how do you think that county level support fills some of the critical gaps for the veteran community?
So I think the biggest thing is that, and this is a term we use a lot in our state association, and really nationwide, we're the boots on the ground, right? We're right there in people's communities, so they don't have to travel to a regional office. Like, the closest regional office for us is Chicago. And in the beginning world, like, people used to have to go to the regional offices to file claims. Or Hines might have a row of offices that have claims officers in them, and they might be able to do it there. Those are going wayside because we are the boots on the ground in the communities.
Yeah, and you have so much, and with that, you have such a great understanding of the issues that the veterans in your community face, the other resources that are out there locally. Like, you can help direct them and just make them feel more comfortable with whatever it is that they need. I think it's so important, especially in a day where now we're seeing so many things become automated, AI and everything like that. So many things are becoming less personal.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're dealing with something as vulnerable as whatever it is you might be filing a disability claim for, that needs to be in person. That needs to be with somebody that you can talk to and look at and sit in front of or smell if you're Brad. But just be with, because it's hard to talk about that type of stuff with anybody else. Like, it's hard to talk about that stuff over a computer or over a phone. So I think having someone in your community, like, oh yeah, I get to go to the VAC,
feels more personal too that way. Like like they actually care.
Yeah,
absolutely, and we do.
Oh, right? Yeah, I mean,
we really do. Yeah. You get attached to these people. It is a job that your heart is in it, and if it's not, then you shouldn't be in the job. But yeah.
And that's why, again, it's really cool to get to see things on the state level. I know you get to see things on the national level too, because of NAC VSO, but like, to get to see what, like, the state of Illinois, what Veterans Assistance Commissions are doing together, you get to see, oh, wow, there's this many passionate people about helping veterans get the benefits that they are owed. So much so that I forget what the numbers were, but like, in the course of like somewhere between 2 to 4 years, it went from veterans in the state of Illinois getting like $40 million worth of benefits to like $140 million worth of benefits. That's insane. That's crazy. And it had, like Karen said, it takes people that really have heart in it to do that type of work. You know what I mean? But it's really rewarding and humbling to know that there's so many people out there that have chosen that line of work. You know what I mean? Sure. Karen, what do you think the biggest misconception veterans have coming through your door?
I'll just go back to the whole thing that we're not the VA. Like, we're really not. We don't make the answers. I would say as a second part, it's like, we can't tell them yes or no. I've recently been working with one veteran who's like, well, what's the VA saying? Can't you just tell me yes or no? I'm like, I can't tell you that until that letter's in VBMS, I won't tell you anything. Like,
Right.
you've got to wait and be patient and figure that out because, there used to be a thing where we used to hear that some VSOs would say, well, you should be at 100%. Well, we can't make that decision. VSO should never say stuff like that. So I'd say the biggest misconception is that we can tell them where they should be, and that's not our job.
That's a good point. And I like that. I think that makes the job more clear and obviously more fair because you're helping them advocate for their rights, their benefits, and what that is between their experiences and the VA.
Correct.
And you're just trying to help figure that out. I would tell people, just drawing a parallel because it makes it easier for me to understand, like when I worked as a private investigator and I would train other private investigators, I would always tell them that I'm not teaching you to look for fraud. I'm teaching you to gather information. Because if I teach you to look for fraud, that's going to taint everything that you do. That's going to taint your paperwork. That's going to taint everything you do. It's like to prove that this person is fraudulent, but we're dealing with somebody's livelihood here. So all we do is collect the information, give it to the insurance company, and they determine whether or not they think it's fraud. So I think I can definitely respect and appreciate that, I think. When it comes to other common barriers in line with that, so some of the things that often come up for barriers veterans face, you got pride and stigma, right? You got paperwork fatigue from just doing all the documentation and stuff that comes with that. Bad past experiences with other systems, not knowing where to start, period. What of those barriers, obstacles kind of really resonate with you the most, Brad?
Definitely pride.
Pride was for me too. Yeah.
But not even so much pride as in like, does that mean like I don't deserve it, somebody else does?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by, okay, so yeah, that one. Dude, they all do a little bit of all of them, you know. I had no idea what a VSO was, or I like you said, because it was on the same floor in Marine, VA, VAC, same. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
So
Right.
I had no idea until I thought you put a claim in when you got out, and that was all. That was it. You couldn't adjust it. It couldn't be changed. Like that is it. And then,
and in addition to that, how many veterans, present company included, have we met, dealt with, are friends with that didn't even think that they were a veteran? Like they weren't even comfortable calling themselves a veteran because they served their time honorably but didn't see combat or didn't deploy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you didn't even think you were a veteran, much less qualifying for a veteran benefit. Correct. You know what I mean? So from a pride and stigma perspective, oh my God, that's got to be an issue for a lot of vets that are out there.
Yeah. Oh, and dude, I don't want to like blame society, but I kind of blame society because like, dude, they glorify war and like they glorify like all these movies and like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, if you didn't do that, like, did you really serve? Like, if you weren't an American sniper, did you even serve?
Dude, that's how I felt. That's how I felt because even with the minimal experience that I had, I didn't have the cool door kicking Black Hawk down 16 hours, like a 16-hour firefight. I didn't have like that type of experience.
Bro, I wore a paper hat.
Which is, you're always comparing yourself to someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even still, I was like, man, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I didn't feel like I deserved any of that because of it, because veteran just encompasses all of us. Right. We had super different experiences.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't really deal with the paperwork fatigue because I never tried it, but I didn't know where to start. That was really scary. And if you have no idea where to start, you're just going to Google it. And if you Google it, it's going to pull up whoever sponsors and paid for the sponsorship ads. So you could get connected to Claim Sharks. You could get connected to any other organization without realizing that there is a free resource that you could probably use depending on where you live in Veterans Assistance Commissions. So that was another one for me too. Karen, what barriers do you hear the most from the veterans that you serve?
Most of what you've named. I mean, that's a big thing. Like people not thinking they're veterans because they didn't serve combat. Yeah. I'd say that's probably the number one.
Yeah.
For healthcare purposes, a lot of people don't think they're veterans or they would qualify for it because they make too much money.
Yeah.
Didn't think they'd need a disability claim and they could get in. But you know, the OTHs are generals. You know, if somebody has a general under honorable condition, a lot of those don't think that they're worthy.
Right.
I'll say worthy of having VA services of any kind. So there's a lot, but I think that's the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much, like, as far as how it ties to mental health, when you really think about it, I believe that if you are avoiding some significant potential benefits, I think if you're avoiding that, it would increase your stress. It would increase your anxiety. It could increase your isolation. Like, if you look at the emotional weight of financial instability alone, right? Especially as a veteran, you get out of the service, you had your steady paycheck.
First and 15th.
If you lived on a military base or you're deployed or whatever, everything was there for you. I mean, I can't speak to barracks life because I didn't live barracks life. You did.
Dude, I paid for gas and a cell phone bill.
So like in Iraq and Afghanistan, I lived on bases for years, and it was like everything was there. I didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't have to pay for a gym membership. I didn't have to pay for food. Like, I went to the chow hall. I had a PX right there. That was what I would pay for, was like the little toiletry, hygiene items I needed. But everything was pretty much packaged up right there for me, and it was super easy to navigate. And then you get out, and now you're responsible for everything.
Yeah.
And that steady paycheck you might not have.
Nope.
And you have to, all of the responsibilities, everything that you didn't realize, like the financial instability, that's one of the most crucial pillars that create the foundation you have to build the rest of your life on. And that is something that the Veterans Assistance Commission and your benefits can directly assist with right out the gate, that you can just cross that off your list of things to worry about. Because, oh my God, everybody, I'm sure all of us here, including plenty of our listeners, have been in a place in their lives where you were worried about where that next meal was coming from, where that next paycheck was coming. Like, you don't want to live in that space if you don't have to. So why not see what else you qualify for? Like, how anxious, like, to think of how anxious I was when I was living in that place. You know what I mean? Of financial instability and things. It's a bad spot to be in.
Yeah. Not having your own place to live.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah.
That is the worst.
Yeah. And then the isolation's on top of that, because you're not in the barracks anymore. You're not somewhere where, okay, even if I'm having a bad day, I got somebody 5 feet to the left and 5 feet to the right that I can go talk to about this. I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. So I'm just going to hole up in my room and play video games and just hope that this works itself out. You know what I mean? So yeah, it can spiral super fast. Karen, how often do you think, how often do veterans come in to your office already overwhelmed or at some sort of breaking point? Do you see that very often? What would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with the paperwork for sure. Navigating the va.gov website and the papers that you can fill out yourself. A lot of people use AI. Sometimes AI is incorrect.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I will tell you, when people file for themselves, we'll find that we get to pick up the pieces. Like, we will do the appeals because they're clueless at that point, or they're really struggling to figure out how to appeal their tinnitus and hearing loss or something. And it's really at the appeal part that I think we see the breaking point the most. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. And I've heard a lot of people say, I just don't know that I need to continue. I don't think it's worth the fight. I don't want to go for any more compensation and pension exams, all of those things that make this a hard process that could be so much easier.
Yeah, I call it, and I probably stole it from somewhere, but I call it the mail-in rebate phenomenon, where it's just like, if you make it just hard enough, most people will quit. Like, most people won't do it. Like, you can go buy something. It's like mail-in rebate. You'll get 50% of it back. You'll initially be like, all right, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to buy this because I'm going to send this in. And then like a week later, you're like, I don't give a shit. Like, you just quit. You just quit because they provided enough of a barrier for you to be like, I'm done. I feel like the VA does that.
And how often do I hear veterans say, they're just waiting for me to die to give me the right answer?
Ugh.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Vietnam veterans will say that to me a lot.
They're just waiting for me to die. Good Lord, man.
Not a lot of faith in the system. And then Vietnam veterans, again, being a demographic within a demographic, right? It's like, how many of them, because of the way that they were received, the poor way they were received when they came home, their journey into getting their benefits, I'm sure has to be like a whole different track than like the rest of the veteran community, right?
Of course it is. In fact, when you were talking about getting out and getting your services right away, do you know that most Vietnam veterans didn't even attempt to do their benefits until they retired from their jobs at the age of 60 or 65?
No, but I could see that.
When I first really started getting into claim work and stuff, that was the biggest demographic we saw come in was the Vietnam veterans because, one, their PTSD flared up because they didn't stay busy all the time.
Right.
So they were sitting at home all the time.
Yep.
And they had good health insurance, so they didn't need health insurance. Now they're like, hey, maybe I should check out VA.
Yeah. And like, I can't tell you how many times, and it's only been a handful, but how many times in our peer support groups with VAT, we've had Vietnam veterans come in and they weren't connected to anything. My uncle is a Vietnam veteran, combat Vietnam veteran. I can't remember if it was 1 tour or 2 tours. He was an officer for an infantry platoon. Dude was there, did stuff, saw stuff, and he doesn't get his benefits. And I've brought it up to him recently, and he was like, nah, he still doesn't want it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get, we have an amazing volunteer in our office who's also part of the reason why the Veterans Assistance Commission in Kankakee County got started, Roger Bean, who's also a Vietnam veteran, amazing guy. And I approached him and I said, hey, and this was while Roger was kind of in and out of the office. He had some medical stuff and other stuff going on. But I asked him to talk to my uncle because even though my uncle and I are in the same family, both infantry vets, sometimes it takes a Vietnam vet to talk to another Vietnam vet to get them to say, okay, I'm going to go get the help that I need. But like they have that mentality, you know what I mean? So that's tough too. But so to break it down simply, what specific types of assistance does the Veterans Assistance Commission help with?
So our first and foremost, of course, is filing all sorts of claims with the VA. So whether it's disability, pension, DIC, which is for the widows, but we also have transportation that runs to Hines.
Mm-hmm.
We have a financial assistance program for veterans that meet the 200% of poverty level. We have an emergency assistance program. We also have a wonderful new food partner that provides us with beef and fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a ton of clothes that if somebody needs clothes for interviews and stuff, we have clothes as high-end of suits to the needs of underwear, socks, PJs, and all of that, as well as hygiene products.
Karen loves that whenever people come to me and they're like, hey, I got clothes, can we donate them? I'm like, yeah, bring them over. And like, we have like a closet.
Soon I will not be able to get into the restroom anymore because the clothes closet keeps expanding into the restroom.
I know. And I know we don't have room, which is currently, our office is in the process of undergoing some renovations to be able to make more room for a lot of these services that we're providing these vets and just create a better overall experience for the vet. But like, I get such a recharge from just I'm talking to a veteran or I see a veteran go in and sit down with one of the VSOs, get some help on the claim work side. They walk outside and we're like, hey, yeah, you need any food? And they're like, yeah. And you hook them up with some food. You need anything else? You need like hat, gloves, shoes? Like what else? Yeah, I could use all those. All right, cool. Walk them back. And then they leave with benefits, so financial assistance possibly going forward. They got some clothes that they needed. They got food to feed their families. Like, how do you not feel great after that? You're
Dude,
like,
I love going to the VSO, or I don't even know what it's called.
VAC.
I love going to the VAC.
We work there, Brad.
I know. Well, okay.
You've been there.
Okay. In all fairness, though,
He can't see the sign.
That's true.
that's one. I can't see the sign, and when I do see the sign, it's not just VAC. It's VACKKCOCAK.
That is exactly what our analogy is. VACCKC OKC. Veterans Assistance Commission of Kankakee County, Oklahoma City. Yes. No. Well, because in being at the VAC, one of my things was I want it to be a place where veterans just associate with it being a safe place. Because it's supposed to be, if you're going to have to come in here, talk about some vulnerable stuff.
Yeah.
And we're in a great position in that Veterans Assistance Commission Kankakee County is right down the hall from our community-based outpatient clinic, otherwise known as the CBOC. So if you don't know, If you are so far away from a VA hospital, your community may have a CBOC, an outpatient clinic for that VA hospital that you can go to for a lot of your services, see your primary care there, depending on what their setup is. Our CBOC is currently expanding to offer even more stuff, I think on like the cardiac side and a bunch of other cool things, so veterans won't need to go all the way to Hines to get their help. But because we're right down the hall and we have veterans that go in to see their psychiatrist, counselor, whoever, doctor's appointment, and those providers, they're overworked, right? I can't imagine what their caseloads are like. So they only got a certain amount of time to see everybody they got to see that day. When they leave their office, if they need to go somewhere for a second because they just had to talk to somebody about the worst moments of their life and they need to go somewhere before they go be around their family again, they might come over to the VAC, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, hang out, talk to the VSO, talk to Chris up front, talk to Roger, the volunteer, and just like get themselves back to where they need to be so they can go home.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like you got to be that place.
Gives off solid vibes. Every time I love it in there.
Yeah.
Love it in there.
Same.
We have people that regularly have their doctor's appointments down the hallway, and they will come in and get a bag of chips and a cup of coffee and just sit there and wait for their appointment even.
Great. Yeah. Come hang out.
Yep. We're the home away from home.
Yep.
Definitely gives off like solid USO vibes. Just missing an Xbox and we'll be all right.
Oh, yeah, dude. I loved going to a good VSO. Or VSO, USO, and VSO. But and also in addition to those services, burial assistance, that's another one, right? The Veterans Assistance Commission, huge assistance with. When it comes to the financial assistance, can you get into that just a little bit more, explaining what that is?
Sure. Since the VACs were started, and that's really our primary focus is, we have a budget set aside for your needs. So it is your rent, your mortgage, your utilities, and your sewer. Your water, not necessarily your sewer. So we don't pay like phone bills and we don't pay your grocery bills, but we can help in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to just bring us, first you got to get registered with us, right? So you bring us your DD-214, your registration, and then we'll sit down with you and go through the packet of the things that you need to do. If you're unable to work, you just need a doctor's note. If you're able to work, we'll send you to Illinois Department of Employment Security, who has a DVOP, which is somebody that will help veterans get jobs. And we'll work with you to have some financial assistance on an ongoing basis until you get reestablished. We will also, in the meantime, look at your benefits that you might be getting from the VA. And if you aren't getting any sort of disability pay, make sure that you shouldn't be getting something. So we will look into all of that too.
And it's been, sorry, go ahead.
Nope. So that's the financial assistance side, but we also have emergency assistance because we've realized over the years that we see more and more of the emergency assistance that maybe they've been out of work for 2 months, but now they have a job, but they're a month behind in their rent or utilities or whatever.
Right.
And so we'll help with that emergency assistance side of things.
Oh, that's so huge. And that's such a crucial piece that I think a lot of, like myself, I wish I would have known about these services a lot earlier. But I think it's awesome that the Veterans Assistance Commission can do all that. One of the things that you brought up too, you said, just bring in your DD-214. What if a veteran doesn't have or can't find their DD-214?
We'll help you do that too.
Booms. There you go. Because I get veterans that say that to me all the time.
Yep.
And like I was like that. I'm like, I don't know where my DD-214 is. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You can still come in. We can work on finding that. What should a veteran expect when they walk into a Veterans Assistance Commission the first time?
So when you come into our office, you will be greeted by somebody at the front door or wherever they're located at the current moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we will help you with whatever you need. Like you will, if you're not registered, we'll get you registered. If you need a tax benefit letter so that you can get your tax exemption, we help with that. But Chris, who is our admin assistant, she will get you set up with appointments, tell you what to bring to your first appointment. And she even does a little bit of triage. If you need to have the power of attorney for VA purposes signed and an intent to file to hold a date of claim, she'll get all that stuff done, and then she'll set an appointment with one of our VSOs.
And you talked about some of the paperwork that was needed. What other paperwork is usually needed for a veteran that's coming in for the first time?
There's quite the list, but I mean, I think the main things that you want to bring is your dependency. So if you have a spouse and children, bring in the basic information of their date of birth, social security number, the date you got married, that sort of thing. Bring those in. Bring a voided check with you because VA only does it by direct deposit. So you'll need to make sure that you have the voided check with you. Your medical records. If you have anything from service treatment records that you have, bring those with you. And then any outside VA medical records you have. If you go see private doctors, your back doctor, your neurologist, whoever you might see, bring those with you, or we'll order those for you because they will charge you if you go, and typically they don't charge the VA if we send it off. So if you don't have it, we will help you get those too. But the first appointment, your basics are going to be your, if you have your service treatment records, voided check, and your dependency information.
Did you have your medical paperwork when you got out, Brad?
I had a white, kind of. I don't think it was like my full, because while I was in, they started transitioning to all online stuff. So it went from like paperwork to digital. So I'm not sure if I do have a medical jacket, but I'm not sure if it's.
See, I had like all of mine because I remember that's
because you're National Guard, and National Guard has to get their own. And that's the one thing I should tell you. National Guard and reservist, you have to get your own medical records because the military does not keep it.
Oh, well, there you go.
See, because I've talked to plenty of other guys that were like, I didn't have my medical records when I got out, and I was like, I talked to my other buddy Cummins, who we were deployed together, like the whole first deployment, and like we were like, we both had our medical records. Why didn't you have your medical record? That totally makes sense because I had everything, and all I did was when I first saw Kurt, I just gave him that, and he was like, "This is great," and that was a huge help. So after the first visit, what happens after that first visit?
So it depends on each person, obviously. Sure. A lot of times we'll send them to our research specialist, Roger, our volunteer.
Roger. Yep.
If there's information that we need to find out, like what exposures they might have had or what ships they were on, and do some extra research of what contaminations they might have had.
Yeah.
So he tries to connect some of those dots for us. And then if we have everything at the first appointment, we'll actually file. Yep. If we have to get medical records, we have to do that. But one thing that I stress to everybody is you need to write your story out for the VA. I think the VA needs to know who you are and why you joined the military, but also what happened to you in service. So even if you're not filing for PTSD, but you're filing for your back injuries, you need to tell the VA why your back freaking hurts. And if that's because you fell off of a Humvee, or that you were in an IED, or that you just, the wear and tear, you need to tell the VA from start to finish what all you did in the service. And it should be more than a paragraph.
Yeah.
I usually tell the VA who you were in high school, like what you did. If you played football, you were an athlete, you were a nerd, you sat behind a computer. I mean,
nerd. Nerd.
And then tell them why you joined the military. Give them your heart, and then go through the stressors of your service, your injuries. Even if it's in your military medical records, you want to tell them each of those things. My big toe was cut off, but I got to continue, or I got an ingrown toenail, whatever. Any of those things that bothered you, from being blown up to an earache to whatever, you want to tell the VA everything that happened and finish up with how those things affect you today. My knees hurt every day because I wore these stupid boots and they were heavy, and I marched 20 miles every day with 180 pounds on my back, and continue the story and tell the VA what you've done about getting treatment. I see a VA doctor, I go see a back specialist at Illinois Bone and Joint, whatever it is. And so that way we know everywhere that we need to get your medical records from too. So tell your story.
I think that's one of the that's a barrier for a lot of vets too, I think, is telling that story, especially if there's any sort of trauma involved with that, or just because of the lack of understanding of how your story can really tie to everything. Because it's like, IED and everything aside, okay, my normal day in Afghanistan on the first tour was like, so we had an MRAP, and my truck responsibility was to either put a Mark 19 or a 50 cal machine gun with the gunner on the very top of that MRAP. And MRAP's like 10 feet tall. So you would have to take this heavy ass 50 cal, put it up on the hood, climb up on the hood, and then get it on the top of the vehicle, and then climb up on the top of the vehicle, get all the ammo up there, the ammo cans, everything. And then at the end of the mission, you'd have to take everything down. So you are jumping on and off this vehicle all day with your gear on half of the time, you know what I mean? Most of the time, especially when you're getting back, depending on how fast you got to take everything off. But it's like, that impact on your joints over time, just from doing those consistent movements every day. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot, you know?
And most people wouldn't understand that. If you were a compensation and pension examiner and had nothing to do with the military, if your story gets into your file and they have the opportunity to read that, they understand why your back hurts.
Yeah.
Whether you're 30, 40, 50, or 70,
Yeah.
they understand that, man, this guy really lifted heavy equipment a lot. And this is what happens to your degenerative joint disease that you have in your back and your knees and your ankles and everywhere.
And again, without going down a crazy long rabbit hole, it's like when you have veterans that deal with compensation and pension exams, it can go a lot of different ways. I've heard great stories. I've heard horror stories. I've experienced situations where a C&P exam takes like 10 minutes and you're like in and out, but it was supposed to take way longer. And you feel like the examiner is just checking off boxes, like asking you yes or no questions. And if you're not willing to put yourself out there and your story isn't written down so the C&P examiner knows what you've been through, if you got a bad C&P examiner, right, wrong, or indifferent, they might just check some boxes. And I fought against that so much so that I got put on the Veteran Service Related Task Force, or the Task Force for Veteran Service Related Ailments, for IDVA, with some VSOs, and I wasn't even working for the VAC at the time. I was just complaining about stuff and complaining about the process for C&P examiners for vets, because it's like, you don't even want to talk about it as it is. And now I really got to put it out there, so exactly what Karen said, so that C&P examiner understands why your back hurts. You know what I mean? Like, putting your whole story out there makes it so they understand, so their questions might be structured better, and so you can hopefully get into it so you get the rating that you deserve. You know what I mean? So it's okay if you don't know the right words. It's okay if you're not in a crisis. You just have to get the conversation started. Veteran service officers are the ones who can help you find those right words and help you get the process started. Now, I wanted to also ask you, as far as working with other organizations, which we briefly touched on. The VACs partner with other organizations a lot. That's part of the reason why I think their community impact is so important. Can you explain how VACs work alongside, like, mental health providers, social workers, stuff like that? Sure.
Well, let's start with the CBOC down the hallway from us. I mean, realistically, we have their social worker come in and ask questions of what we can and can't do. They'll bring us veterans and say they need to file a claim, get the process started. Yeah. They'll actually encourage them to that point, to the hand holding, like, let's get this done.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing. But we also have community organizations, like we have Thresholds, we have Well in Mind, and those those are probably two of the biggest ones that we refer people to if they're having struggles with the VA or can't get into the VA system.
Again, living in a rural community, do you know what community care is? Do you understand that you may qualify to go see a community care provider? Do you know what any of that means? Like, that was all brand new territory for me, that I had no idea about. And being able to work with some of these other community organizations that tell us, hey, if a veteran can't go to the VA for whatever reason, just understand that we are a authorized community care provider. We're right down the street, you know what I mean? And having access to those resources and being able to be that focal point, or whatever you want to call it, for veterans that are coming in looking for assistance, to direct them, to tell them, hey, you might also qualify for these things. You can advocate for yourself to your primary care so you can see somebody else in your community instead of having to travel, 60 miles.
Yep. And, the other thing, people's pain, whether you're a veteran or not, people's pain plays a big effect on their mental health. So we also have people that come from H-Wave, and they will set you up with an H-Wave. It's a TENS unit on steroids, and you can get a free one from the VA. You just have to get the referral from your doctor. So he comes in once a month and helps with that. We're also exploring the fact that there's a new company that wants to come in and do the virtual reality therapy for us and get that started.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah. The goggles are huge, but it is a great thing. We had one a few years ago that came in and did it for a while, and I'm assuming that he left the job.
Seth.
We still have the goggles in our office.
He's not there anymore. He came on an episode of the podcast to talk about it way back in the day. It was one of our first episodes.
That was
about virtual reality therapy. Remember?
Yeah, I got to swim with dolphins, dude. It was sick.
Yeah. I've had them on before. They're very, very cool, and I do believe that we have a new resource for that, and that he will be starting that very soon too. So those community organizations that come in that we partner with, and we're fortunate that typically we have a swing office that somebody either from the VA or one of these outside resources can come in, and veterans can come in and sit with them and test out all of these other things that they can use.
Yeah, because it's like, again, personal relationships matter. Personal conversations matter. Being able to get your hands on something. Like when it comes to you telling me, hey, I think you should try this device out for your back pain. Okay, maybe I'll do it. You give me a handout or something, I'll keep it for a while, and maybe if I get to a real bad place, I'll do it. But if I can go somewhere, I can try it, like get my hands on it, figure it out a little bit, and say, oh, okay, no, I understand how this could help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the great thing, again, at the VAC for Kankakee County, if you try it out at the VAC and you're like, yeah, I think this could work, you just walk down the hallway to the CBOC and you say, hey, I want to talk to my primary care. Can you just let them know that I want to use this H-Wave device? And they'll be like, okay. And then they'll send you one. And it's that easy. It makes it a lot easier for you. And then like with the VR therapy, everything like that, I think it's great for VACs to partner with community organizations just to give veterans the opportunity to learn about a new tool. Because again, we talked about how diverse veterans are. We talk about it all the time. You deserve to have every tool that exists in your arsenal, and which tool works for you might be a different one that works for me and for you. But you need to be able to like just see it and learn about it so you can make the decision on if you think it's going to work for you or not, and then maybe try it. So whether it's VR, H-Wave, whatever else, any resources that can come into the VAC so veterans can get their hands on it, I think it just benefits everybody. And then Congresswoman Kelly has Aaron Craig from her office, who is her veteran service rep. He comes to the VAC once a month just in case any veterans want to talk to him about any of the issues that his office might be able to help with, Congresswoman Kelly's office. Again, I think those relationships are huge, and knowing about those organizations, like you brought up, Buddy Check, when you're working with veterans, their spouses, and dependents, Buddy Check 2 their Well in Mind program works with everybody in a veteran's life. So if a veteran has experienced PTSD and they're filing a claim for that, and unfortunately through that process they put their kids through some things or their spouse through some things, hey, we can hook you up with some free therapy for them through this organization that we also partner with. Like, you need those hubs, especially in a world where we're just overwhelmed by information. And again, another term that I know I stole, the Netflix effect, where it's like you go to a streaming app and there's like a billion things to watch and you have no idea where to start, right? So what do? You default to what you know. You know what I mean? Because it's too much that's out there. You need their algorithm. You need somebody to just be like, hey, based on what you're saying, you need this, or you should try this.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important to have organizations in the community that can do that. You know what I mean? While being face-to-face with people, I think. Are there any other organizations that you feel like VACs work alongside really well?
I think nonprofits in general. You can look throughout the state of Illinois, and there are nonprofits in almost every community. The middle section of the state has Veterans Resources, Inc. or something. Lake County has Al Lynch's foundation. So just looking around, there are so many different partnerships. There are grants that we use in our office. Operation Vet Success helps with rent, basically, usually rent. They try to keep the home, whether it's mortgage or rent.
Yep.
Our Patriots will help with oddball things, a phone bill, whatever. So we use a lot of nonprofits to help offset our own financial assistance and emergency assistance. We always try to use the outside resources before we use the county funding. I think that's our own fiscal responsibility that we take care of. Mm-hmm. But certainly nonprofits are a big thing. Last night I just sent Eric something about women veterans and a nonprofit they started with helping with financial stability for the short term and things too. So it's all the resources that we find that we try to use.
Those relationships are crucial to cover the gaps, because it's like, when I first got into the space of working with veterans, I just wanted to help veterans, and I was tired of losing so many my friends to suicide. And so it's like, you just want to help veterans, but what does that look like? You're painting with an extremely broad brush. And so it's just like, there's so many things that need to happen for veterans to get the help that they need. It would be impossible, in my opinion, for one organization to provide that support for all veterans. So it's like, to have those relationships with community organizations that can truly fill every gap. That is so important in trying to help veterans out, I think, and get them the services that they need.
I'd like to add one more thing too, and I think this is really important in the state of Illinois, but I'll say nationwide too, is that I may not have all the answers, Ty may not have all the answers, but we know a VSO that might be able to help us out. So we never rely on our own instinct to say yes or no if there's something that's a little off the wall for a veteran, somebody claiming something we've never really heard of. Cholangiocarcinoma. Yeah, who knew that was a thing?
Yeah, I feel like you're making up words.
No, that's a real word.
Cholangio?
Cholangiocarcinoma.
Cholangio.
It's cancer of the bile ducts.
Of the bile ducts to the kidneys?
No, bile like your gallbladder.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, those are the things that we use our other partners, including other VSOs. It's another partnership that we have. Well,
and I also get that vibe from anything that I've gone to from a state, national level or anything, is how much VSOs, it seems like I would say good VSOs do, is that they just try to help other VSOs because the goal is very mission focused.
Yep.
We're trying to help veterans get what they're owed. And to do that with all of the crazy things that are out there that they could be dealing with, it would be counterproductive to not just work with every other VSO.
Absolutely.
Try to figure that out.
Yep.
So some rapid fire questions. True or false, Karen? You have to be homeless to qualify for benefits. True or false?
No, false.
If you're not combat, you don't count and you suck. I added the last part in there. Sorry.
How do you like your eggs?
What if it's too late to apply for benefits?
Never.
Never?
For almost any of them, never.
Asking for help.
Even when you're dead.
So can you get into that a little bit more?
Sure. Are we done with questions?
Yeah.
No. So even if a veteran passes away and they have dependents, whether it's a spouse or children, please still come see us. I think that's the most important thing to know is that veterans, again, going back to that stigma, they're too proud. They don't want to. They don't think they deserved it. They don't think because they didn't serve combat, whatever that might be, is that a spouse still might be eligible.
What disqualifies people less often than they think?
Probably they're non-combat. People that are non-combat think they don't deserve anything.
Yeah. But then again, depending on where they were at, what they dealt with, again, from my side of things and hearing what I've heard, Vietnam veteran, for example, I know of a Vietnam veteran that worked on airplanes. And that was all that person did and was never overseas. But unfortunately, those airplanes carried Agent Orange. And so that veteran, despite never leaving the United States, is unfortunately dealing with a lot of the terrible side effects from Agent Orange exposure because he worked on an airplane where there was Agent Orange. And I'll sit, as you know, and talk to Roger about just whatever because like Roger is looking into and really kind of like investigating a lot of these potential causes for other issues. And when he just kind of goes off and starts telling you about some things that he found, like how you could have been at one military base and they were spraying that military base with Agent Orange as a herbicide and you didn't know that, but he found that out. So you actually did have Agent Orange exposure despite never going overseas. Like all that crazy stuff that you never would have known about if somebody wasn't spending the time to look into it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Have you had times where a veteran was surprised that they qualified for some type of benefit?
Absolutely.
Probably all the time.
Yeah. I think we have a very dear friend of ours that is probably the most recent one. I can tell you that he never thought in a million years he would qualify for anything. And I think he's 60% now. I don't know, something like that. But, I think that a lot of people just, again, they bury it once they get out of the service. They go on and have their lives. They get married. They have kids. They work their life away. And then all of a sudden they're having headaches or they're having that constant ringing in the ears causing them, driving them crazy, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they come in and they talk and lo and behold, they get some money from the VA.
Yep. What is one thing that you wish every veteran knew?
Ask the question. Always ask.
Yeah.
Just don't assume anything, I think is the best thing, is never assume.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Because it's like, regardless of what happened during your time in the military, regardless of what your leadership in the military told you, ultimately at the end of the day, you got to advocate for yourself. You don't know what you don't know. Trust the subject matter experts. Just like you said, ask the question. Just go in there and ask and just be honest and put it all out there and see. When do you think a veteran should reach out, even if they're unsure?
So as soon as possible, let's go back to you getting out of service not knowing, and Brad said here, I just turned in paperwork, right? If you are newly getting out, there is nothing better than you can do is to go back home and see a VSO.
Yeah.
Go to your local community and find out who that person is and ask the question. You may have sat somewhere in the stateside and not done anything, but you might have had an exposure you're not aware of. Even if it's as simple as you were in infantry and you shot a lot of guns and you have that ringing in the ears, that's tinnitus.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you can claim. So ask that question.
There's never a bad time, I don't think. There's never a bad time to reach out.
Nope.
Like we've had vets, that fresh out. We got one guy fresh out of the Marines, and again, he was another one. It was like, I didn't deploy. I don't deserve this, that, or the other. And I'm like, go talk to one of our VSOs. Like I was on him like every time I saw him. Like, dude, just go talk to a VSO. Maybe you don't qualify for anything, but how do you know? Like, go ask them. They'll know, or they'll know the people that know. At least just find out and do it while it's fresh in your mind, and you can have ready. Like, it'll be easier for you to get all the stuff you need to put together your claim instead of waiting.
Oh, dude, and like doing all the appointments and like talking to like all the different doctors and trying to like readjust your claim.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It gets overwhelming. And you talk to the veterans that are doing it later in life that have waited a long time, and a lot of them are it's overwhelming because it's all of this stuff you have to do to connect these dots that if you just could have gotten ahead of it a little bit more, but you didn't know, it might not have been such a tough process. Karen, do you have any advice what a veteran can do to advocate for themselves without burning themselves out?
Just seek the assistance.
Yep.
Please don't go to claim sharks, people that make you pay for it.
Yep.
Like I can tell you that because they're going to make you do all the paperwork yourself anyway.
Yep.
So come see us because we do it for free. But don't try to do it yourself if you're uncomfortable. If you're of a generation that didn't use computers, that's what we're here for.
Right.
So just seek the assistance.
Yeah. And understand that it could be a process. Understand that a lot of vets, in my opinion, you want to know this is going to happen, and then this, and then this, and then this. Like, I want a timeline. I want to know you got to know that it might take a while. There's a lot of factors here outside of our control. You're just kind of going with the waves with this, but you just got to keep making the best decision you can with the information you have. There's going to be times where it's going to be daunting. It's going to be intimidating. There's going to be times where you're going to be scared. You're going to have to talk about something you don't want to talk about. But you can't hide from those things when it comes to applying for your benefits, because those are the things that could potentially qualify you for those benefits. And so like when I talk to some of these vets and I try to get them ready to go talk to a VSO or a C&P exam or whatever, I'm telling them like, listen, I know you don't. There might be a real, like, I see this especially with like MST, right? It's like, I know you don't want to talk about this, but you deserve benefit. You have earned the benefits that come along with experiencing what you've experienced. And because these people don't know that, you have to explain that part of your life. And again, that's why I think that personal connection is so important, because okay, I can go to my VSO. I can talk to my VSO about this. You know what I mean? You got to feel comfortable talk about that type of stuff. Like, oh my God. For family members, so some questions for you for what some family members could be thinking of and how they should handle some of this stuff. Karen, what do you think are some signs for a family member that a veteran in their lives might need support?
We'll go for the biggest one would probably be their anger issues or their obsessive drinking. So those are the main things I would say. If you have somebody that is in some sort of distress, comes home from work, is always angry, drinks every night, or smokes pot every night, or whatever that clutch is for them. I'm sorry, boys.
I'm looking at Brad.
Yes.
You felt me look at you. You just felt my head whip over.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Sorry.
Whatever. The addictions, even painkillers. So many veterans are in pain, so they get addicted to painkillers. Yeah. There's a lot. we deal with those people through our Veterans Treatment Court, which we didn't even touch on
I just made a note for Vets Court also. Yep. Yeah.
But that whole addiction and self-medicating thing is probably the biggest things. If you have a family member that's in distress and you see that, seek help. We can't talk them into it more than anybody else can, but at least we have different peer support groups that you can go to. We can try to get them enrolled in VA where they can get VA assistance. So
I think hypervigilance too, because I think hypervigilance is one of the kind of canaries in the coal mine, in that that's one of the things that I dealt with and that a lot of vets I know deal with. And like, that's part of the stereotypes, right? Or stereotype might not be the best word, but it's like, you can't sit with your back to the wall or all this other type of stuff. You got to see all the entrances and exits of the building. It's like, we talked about this before. We did an episode on hypervigilance with John Haberkamp.
Yep.
And it was just like, in the military, it was literally my job to be hypervigilant all the time. Like, it was my job to be ready for bad things to happen all the time. And then you come home and then you're just supposed to turn that off. And then you watch the news and you're like, I don't want to live here anymore. Like, how can I not be hypervigilant all of the time? And so it's like, I think if you notice a veteran in your life that has hypervigilance to a degree that it's affecting their life now, right? Where it's like, okay, you have a hard time going out to certain events. You have a hard time doing things because of the hypervigilance that veteran's experiencing, and they're not getting any services for that. Okay, they deserve those services. We're not trying to cure them of something or tell them that they're wrong for having it, but it's saying, I understand why you have this. You have this because of things that happen to you in service. So because it's affecting your life, the only thing that the government can really do is try to compensate you for that and provide some treatment options for you to be able to maneuver through your life with these new things that you did not have. You know what I mean? But the other service that you brought up that we're both very passionate about, Veterans Treatment Court. So a lot of people don't know about Veterans Court. Would you please explain what Veterans Treatment Court is, Karen?
Absolutely. Probably one of my favorite things of my job is Veterans Treatment Court, and it is helping veterans maneuver through the judicial system. Mm-hmm. So if a veteran gets picked up for a DUI or domestic battery or whatever it is, in the 21st jurisdiction, so where Kankakee and Iroquois come together, is they can get a diversion court called Veterans Treatment Court, and then they get a mentor and they get a judge that's been a veteran, and we help them navigate through the judicial system. It's a long process, but they get treatment the whole way through, and it's at the end their case gets expunged.
It's not easy. It is an arduous program. And I have the honor of getting to be one of the mentors that I love, and I love doing that. But when I meet with veterans that are even thinking about Veterans Court, like, I believe that I am pretty upfront right out the gate. Like, I want them to know it's going to be tough, because I would rather hear that. Like, I would rather you tell me this is going to suck. Like, this is going to be hard. It's going to require this, this, and this, than you saying, it's not that bad. You're going to be fine. Because, going to treatment, depending on what why you're in Veterans Court, depending on what brought you into court, it may require you to go do addiction treatment. It may require you to go to some sort of mental health treatment, anger management, all of these things. It's going to require you to do a lot of deep self-reflection and work. And that's hard. That's hard over a long time. And you have to maneuver around your life and everything else that you have going on. You have to do these drug tests. Like, it's very invasive and it's intensive, but it has to be, because on the nonprofit side, in the crisis space, we work with veterans that have been in inpatient residential 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And I'm not trying to devalue any of that at all or be condescending at all. I'm just saying that a lot of the veterans that I've worked with on the crisis side that have struggles with mental health or substance use, a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with their environment. So what can you do to help a veteran that is really struggling with significant mental health or substance use issues is a year to an 18-month program where they're going to be doing treatment every week. They're going to be doing self-help every week. They're rebuilding their environment. And that is what a diversionary court program, in my opinion, can do to the best of its ability without having a staffed inpatient type building that you're staying at the entire time, is it has to be an invasive program. It's got to be kind of intense because we're changing your entire environment, all of the trauma that you've been through, everything else, and trying to give you a path forward while expunging something off your record that could hinder you from some potential future success. So it's like, it's a great program to be a part of. It's just, it requires a lot from the participants, but to get to see some of these participants go through what they go through, learning more about them and all of the different traumas that they've experienced before, during, and after the military, during the court program, you know, the grief, like we've had participants that have lost very close people in their lives while in the program and still maintain their sobriety. Like it's another humbling thing to get to be a part of. And it's amazing that that's a thing that if you're a veteran, depending on what you get charged with, that you could potentially go to in your area. Because how does it work as far as like who has veterans court and who doesn't?
So it's pretty voluntary anymore. There was a statute that got changed to say that the jurisdiction shall have one. Now it's may have one. But so every jurisdiction in the state of Illinois probably has some sort of diversion court. Like Will County has a mental health court, but they have a veterans track within that. So almost all of them have some sort of diversionary courts. It's just what they have. So Kankakee is really lucky that we have the mental health court, drug court, and veterans court.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, the Judge Jones is also a veteran, and that just adds another layer to the trust that needs to get built, in my opinion, between the staffing and the program, the staffing and then the participants, to understand that this isn't an us versus them mentality. This is we're trying to help you rebuild and reshape your life in a way that leaves you with the most successful path forward.
Yeah. We've changed lives. I mean, we not only changed, but saved lives. I mean, I can think of 3 participants easily that they probably wouldn't be here today without it.
Yeah. And we have some members of FAT that are alumni from the Veterans Court program. And some of those members are still in sobriety and work with other veterans that are trying to work on theirs. And it's a beautiful thing. And one of those veterans told me he went through some significant loss in his life after his time in Veterans Court, and lost a lot of people, unfortunately, that were very close to him, like family members, through just medical issues and things like that. And he told me, he was like, man, if it wasn't for my sobriety in Veterans Court, I'd be dead right now, going through all that stuff. So it's like, you hear stuff like that, and there's no words. There's no words to kind of really make you understand how valuable stuff like that is. Karen, how else does the Veterans Assistance Commission work with spouses and dependents?
So kind of combining it all.
Yep.
So when a veteran comes in, if their spouse is with them and they're on the fence about whether they want to file or not, I turn to the spouse and I turn back to the vet and I'm like, listen, you may not want to file, but will you think of your spouse for a minute? Because especially the Vietnam veterans that are on the fence about filing or doing anything, getting them to understand that benefit is going to help their wife if they can get it started and get it going before they pass away is astronomical in their life to come. So when a veteran passes, their spouse or their dependent can come to the office, and there's several different benefits that they can get. One would be any burial benefits. We'd work with them, make sure that they got that accomplished. But there's a benefit called dependency and indemnity compensation. It's DIC for short, because I don't like saying those 3 words a lot.
Yeah.
And
here to apply for your dick?
Yeah.
And then I walk out, hey.
Got my dick.
Yep. So, when a veteran comes in, they're talking to a female VSO about that. They use their little finger and they're like, nope, it's dropping down now. Okay. So back to the DIC. So DIC is a monthly monetary non-taxable benefit for the spouses of veterans who passed away due to their time in service. So if a veteran from Vietnam dies from a presumptive condition like heart or a cancer or some other massive thing on those lists, and there's a long list, that widow would receive a benefit for the rest of their life. And it also is applicable, then they also get the benefit of the tax exemption in the state of Illinois too. So it's passed on. So they don't pay real estate taxes continuing, and they don't have, and they get a benefit called CHAMP VA, which is Civilian Health and Medical Program put on by the VA. It's like a secondary insurance to Medicare. You have to take Medicare when you're of Medicare age. So all of those are things that we can help with. But there's also a widow's pension. So for widow's pension, it's if a veteran didn't die of something service-connected and the widow is under income, and it's a very low income, but we have widows that are eligible for it. Or if they're in an assisted living home or nursing home or whatever, it helps them stay in those type of facilities or have at-home care in order to be able to survive, really.
So if you know, not just a veteran, if you know the spouse of a veteran, the dependent of a veteran, you have no idea what they qualify for or what they don't. Like, it's worth asking the question. It's worth going into a VAC, talking to a VSO, and just finding out. What are some of your most memorable moments as a veteran service officer?
So probably one of the top ones, young guy just got out of service, was struggling with addiction horribly. His father brought him in. The kid had actually been living on the streets because his dad couldn't deal with him very well and the mom wasn't around. And he literally was in service less than 3 months, got booted out of boot camp, and told me the story of his recruiter. And his recruiter said, well, just when you go for your exam, when you go to MEPS, don't tell him all this stuff. So on his MEPS exam, it said nothing about his mental health because he had been taking antidepressants through high school. Said nothing about, nope, it did say something about his back having a bit of a curvature, but nothing astronomical. But once he got to boot camp and started having to do PT all the time, he had scoliosis. And the recruiter actually told him not to say anything. And he put that in writing for his claim.
Recruiters, man. Yep.
And his mental health came out. Terrible, terrible depression to the point where his records showed that they wouldn't let him carry weapons. Couldn't do any of that type of stuff. And they medically discharged him from boot camp. He got to be 100% service connected for the rest of his life at the age of 18.
And again, the military kind of failed him.
Yep. They should never, first of all, his recruiter should have never told him, don't say these things.
Like, yeah.
That's the speech, though. I remember my recruiter told me the same thing. He's like, dude, say nothing.
Well, thankfully, I had a pretty good experience with my recruiter, but the amount of horror stories that I heard from people, oh my God. That's why we talk about our festival, Triple H. I still one day would like to have a dunk tank, but it be for recruiters. Karen wants me to sit in the dunk tank, and I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
No. I don't think
we'd all pay big money to dunk you.
I'm sure everybody would, but I guarantee you, if there was a recruiter dunk tank,
oh dude, I'd pay $20.
Any event, I don't care where it is. It's like 6 hours away. You got an Army recruiter in there. Like, all right, man, I'll come out for it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like so many people would just try to dunk recruiters all day if there was a recruiter dunk tank somewhere because of the horror stories that so many people have heard, true or not, fabricated, whatever. But that's amazing. Any other ones that you wanted to share?
Sure. This is my favorite part. Like all the things that these people get to come in and talk about and say, "Oh my God, thank you so much."
Yeah.
One of your peeps, your mom's best friend, I believe.
Yep.
Her husband was a Vietnam vet and had applied for benefits before he passed away and was denied for one of them, which was hypertensive heart disease, I believe, or hypertensive pulmonary disease. And in 2022, something came out called the PACT Act. And the PACT Act increased everything in benefits for not only Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, but also for Vietnam veterans. And one of those things that got attached to that was hypertension for Vietnam vets, which was a big game changer for many, many veterans. Even if they got a 0 for hypertension as a disability percentage, that hypertension was listed. So hypertension causes a lot of secondary diseases. It causes kidney function failure. It causes heart disease. It causes pulmonary function diseases. And on this veteran's death certificate, it said that he had hypertensive, I believe it was pulmonary. So she came in, and Eric, I believe, brought her in even.
Yep.
And we sat down and we went through it, and I filed for it. And she got back pay to the date of his death, which I can't remember how long.
2015.
Yep. So that would have been, at that time, I believe, 9 years of back pay.
Yeah.
At we'll just round $1,500 a month. Right now, it's just shy of $1,700, and back then it might have been, $1,200. So, $1,500 a month plus, because she is blind, and at the time she was blind when she filed when he first died. She's also getting the extra addendum to her pay every month for special monthly compensation for housebound, because she can't leave her house because she's blind.
Right. That and you
Blind people.
fucking blind people, man.
Dude, like, just, what, you can't see or something?
God.
Unbelievable.
That was the moment, because I worked for the VAC then, I believe.
I don't think you were. I don't think you were.
Because you let me call her and tell her.
I think when it went through.
You let me tell her that. And again, this was my mom's best friend. I remember my mom's funeral. Like, she sat right next to me the whole time. You know what I mean? And like, we were talking, and she was just, I grew up with her and her husband. Her husband was like an uncle to me, Vietnam veteran, Black Vietnam veteran. And I say that because some of his artwork in Vietnam, he would draw on envelopes, and he submitted those envelopes to our friend Dr. Porter, who's also a Vietnam veteran, runs the Alka Buelen History Museum, a Black History Museum in Kankakee. And he submitted it, and it's a part of a book that it's in like the Library of Congress, all these other cool places where it's like artwork from Black veterans in Vietnam. So his artwork was in that book. And I didn't even know he was a veteran for like most of my life. He was just my cool uncle, bullshit with me, crack jokes and everything. Passed away in 2015. And then, like I said, my mom's best friend, who was my mom's best friend, and she was always there for me. Amazing woman. And I can't remember when she lost her vision, but it was somewhere, probably in like somewhere between between when I got out of high school, 2006, and like 2015. So getting to tell my mom's best friend that she was about to get a check from the federal government, a 6-figure check from the federal government with pay that she'd be receiving every month for the rest of her life, is like, I don't know how to explain how that felt, because it's like your husband's taking care of you from beyond the grave, taking care of you. Like, you don't have to worry about shit. Because at the time she was like trying to figure out how to go to Northwestern for her eye doctor appointments and all this other stuff. And I was like, you can hire a limo now if you want. Like, you could do whatever the hell you want because of what happened to your husband, how it happened, and because Karen figured out that she could connect it, that it was connected to his time of service. Like, that was insane. Like, getting to see stories like that and hearing about veterans that have gone through this terrible stuff and how they are able to provide for their families.
And I think that one of our most recent and things that we deal with, we talked about our financial assistance program in the office, and over the last 2 years, we have had 3 different veterans on our financial assistance for some time because their income was so low they couldn't make ends meet.
Right.
And then the PACT Act happened, and all 3 of these gentlemen are receiving VA benefits with $50,000 or more in retro, plus a monthly stipend now that they never have to be on financial assistance for any reason ever again. Like, they just do that. And, the PACT Act changed a lot, but VA sometimes admits they make mistakes. And my last story I'll tell is about a Vietnam veteran from Herscher. And I had filed for some presumptive conditions of Vietnam for him, and they denied one of them, and I was really stunned. But then the second letter came, and they came with a letter that said they made a clear and unmistakable error in something else for him. This was back in the day where they had the Niemer Act, and that doesn't exist for veterans anymore, but they would back pay a veteran for something that existed and were denied, but maybe it wasn't a part of the PACT Act at the time. And this veteran was a farmer all of his life, and he was going to die, and he did die very soon after he got his award. But his retro was over $450,000 because they found this clear and unmistakable error that they missed his prostate cancer.
Ooh. And like, there is no dollar amount that can take the pain away from losing a loved one. But as a veteran, if I were to die, then like when I die, to know that my family will be okay. Like, that's, oh my God, That's huge. That's amazing.
I'm a big preacher of plan your funerals. So if they come in and they know they have something that's going to take them, like Parkinson's or whatever, plan while you're still able to.
Right. That's hard. We had an episode where we had Fawn and Katie. That was the episode that you were not here for, I believe. When we had Uplifted Care.
Yeah, I was. Yep.
Same conversation with them. It sucks. Nobody wants to have that conversation, but for the sake of making things easier on your family, it's a conversation worth having for sure. So closing this out, Karen, what is if you haven't said it already, what is one thing you would say to a veteran that's listening right now who might be on the fence about talking to a VSO?
Probably just talk to us. The questions never hurt.
Yeah.
Please don't pay for a claim shark, because that is the worst thing. I will tell you, we just recently had a guy in that paid a claim shark close to, what he paid him was 5 months of his first checks.
Yeah.
So whatever the amount was that he was getting from the VA, he had to pay them for 5 months straight for their claim work that they did. And all they did for him was get him to a doctor that told him, yes, this is service connected.
Right.
And then send him paperwork. So don't do that.
Yeah.
We're here. We're all over. Please just use one of us.
Yeah.
And if you think yours is bad, there's no hurt feelings. Believe me.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to like me, and not everybody's going to like Ty.
Right.
Not everybody's going to like everybody in Will County or Iroquois or anywhere else.
Right.
If you need a VSO, just ask the question and find somebody that you can work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no harm, no foul. There's no reason to not, in my opinion, there is no reason to not go to a VAC and just see if there's a claim or if there's some sort of benefit you can receive or that you might qualify for. So asking those questions is so huge. So wrapping up, Bradley,
yes,
any other
sir.
questions, thoughts, hopes, dreams, anything else you got?
Nothing here, man. Just listen.
It feels good to record again, buddy.
So good.
Are you happy that we're doing this again?
I'm
sorry it took so long.
It's okay. It's not your fault.
Well, it's kind of my fault.
I mean, it's life, dude. Life happens.
I'm thankful to be here.
One day, this will be our job. One day.
Maybe. Karen, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here and spreading the information again. I love working with you. I learn so much from you every day. I love your approach to the work that you do and everything that you do. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all that. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How can someone contact the Veterans Assistance Commission in Kankakee County?
Phone number 815-937-8489. If you hit extension 4, you'll get right to Chris, and she can get you set up with an appointment or tell you what you need. Or you can go to our website, and you're going to hate me that I don't know. That's VAC K3. Yeah, sorry.
I'd be guessing. Google Veterans Assistance Commission in Kankakee County.
Yes, please.
Go to that website.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
See?
Come in. This in 2026, we're going to be bringing on an outreach veteran service officer who will hopefully be in the community quite a bit more, especially for some of the veterans that might have issues getting to the office in Bourbonnais. So be on the lookout for that. There's a Veterans Assistance Commission Facebook page. Plenty of ways to follow everything that's going on. So it's especially like if you're interested in the food pantry or anything like that, make sure you're following the VAC of Kankakee County. But other than that, if you're listening to this, please make sure you check in on your fellow veterans. It's okay to need help. Next episode, we are going to be sitting down with our friends Mike Murphy, who's the CEO of Let's Catch Up, and Tim Zidek from Sleep at Heavenly Peace. And we're going to talk about goal setting early into 2026. I used to kind of talk shit about goal setting, especially in the very beginning of the year. And then the older I got, the more mature I get, the more I understand why it's so important to set goals and come up with plans to get to that goal. So I'm excited to talk about that with two people that I think are very good at that. So make sure that you are following our page as well, whether you are over on our Facebook page for the I'm F.I.N.E podcast. You can go to projectheadspaceandtiming.org, and you can fill out the registration form where you can get notified when new podcast episodes come out. But until then, this is the 172nd best mental health podcast in Cambodia, according to that email I got one time. And we hope that we helped you go from being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional to truly being fine, navigating the benefits battlefield.